My first observational piece for portfolio making was a observational piece focused on a forest scene. This is composed of charcoal on a tall, large piece of charcoal paper. Unfortunately, the edges are cropped, so you can't see it in this image, but I have multiple insects drawn on the edges. I think that adds just a nice dimensional layer to this, and I like it a lot. I drew this image when I was feeling particularly anxious and angry at myself, and you can kind of see the process of me working through my emotions during this image. I basically started at the bottom and worked my way up, and you can see as I reach the top, I become more light and gestural and just more free with my motions, and I became more free with my emotions as well. That rhymed. So, piece was a observing details in nature drawing. And now this was my first time attempting to make a piece using oil-based pastels, and I absolutely fell in love with them. It was so much fun. I really, really enjoyed just working with this whole new medium, and it was a really great experience. So basically, I just didn't really want to do an observational drawing of just a flower, because I just think there's so much more to every object existing in our minds, existing beyond what we can see and perceive, and I think that that should be included in an observational drawing if possible. So that's what I did here. I kind of made an intersectional approach to this. I included like math and science and English literature and just all these different disciplines that I enjoy, with the exception of math, in this piece, and I'm pretty happy with the end result. Here we have my observing food piece. The food in question that I was observing was a single grape, which you can see as the planet Mars in this picture. When I was creating this, kind of like buoyed by my success with the first picture, I just kind of went at it. Didn't really take any time to consider what I was actually doing, and I'm not too happy with the end result. I think the koi fish are just really gestural and messy, and they could have been done a lot more effectively and a lot neater. But I have to say, I enjoyed including the planets, and including the names of all the planets and the moons was just kind of a random choice on my part, but I just think it adds this extra layer to this picture. Like it causes you to take a second glance at it and to actually consider what it's trying to say. And I mean, basically, it kind of shows like nature intersecting with the entire solar system and just the existence of art alongside science, which I think is a really important relationship and is something not commonly explored. Again, I used oil pastels on black charcoal paper. This is my observing snacks drawing. It is composed of Sharpie on regular drawing paper. I kind of am not particularly pleased with the end result of this project. I just think compositionally it's pretty weak. But anyway, I'll save the negative stuff for the end. Meanwhile, my process when creating this was to simply draw the donut, which I found deeply, deeply unsatisfying, so I added just this other layer of plants, and I guess the message that I was trying to produce here was that basically our food, no matter how far removed it is from a plant, is still essentially just plant matter produced by photosynthesis, and that's something we can easily forget in today's world. And so I guess this kind of simplistic donut flower became my message here. As I was saying about just the kind of unsatisfying nature of this piece, I think the fact that there is no real background is kind of disappointing to me, and the fact that the main donut, the centerpiece, actually exists in the center of the square is kind of an unfortunate choice on my part. Here's actually one of my favorite pieces from this semester, or at least the observational portion of the semester. For this project, we were instructed to choose a plastic animal to draw observationally, And when I saw a whale shark on the table, I freaked out. I was so ready. I just jumped up, I ran to that whale shark, I took that whale shark and I painted it. And this was the result, and I'm pretty solid with it. I just really enjoy painting aquatic animals. For some reason, I just think they're really beautiful. Just the lines are so smooth and like flowing, and just something about the shape is just really aesthetically pleasing to me. So I really enjoyed that. I worked with an acrylic, like a watered down acrylic wash in the background, which I did with a sponge, which is a technique that I've been doing for a long time and I kind of learned more about during the semester. And then I just used normal acrylic paint on top of that. And I did this all on watercolor paper on the larger size I had available. And I initially attempted to create the white spots on the narwhal using crayon, thinking that acrylic paint would shy away from the crayon, but I was mistaken, so I ended up simply painting over it with white. For this project, we were required to bring in a childhood object reminiscent of childhood memories, and for this I chose a small glass fox that I frequently played with as a child. As a child, I kind of rejected normal toys. I wasn't really a fan of just cars or anything like that. My mother had a cabinet full of glass animals and people, which she incidentally still has, and I would just always steal those and run away into the forest and play with them. I just found them really strangely beautiful and alluring as a child, and I was just always very attracted to them. So this fox was one of my favorites. And I just decided to bring him in to school to use for my art piece. The background I did with acrylic with a sponge, and it's kind of psychedelic. I kind of did that to show just how really strange and unnerving like childhood play can be, and just how creative the child mind is. And I think that that energy is somewhat lost, or at least transformed into other disciplines as we grow up. And I just think that's a really sad thing. I mean, as children, we're so creative and we're so just undisciplined in our approach to things. And we really lose that ability as we grow up. And I just find that disappointing. So I painted this with acrylic on canvas. And afterwards, I actually took this glitter-based glue and put it all over the top. So in the sunlight, it just kind of shimmers in this ethereal way, which I think is really cool. This piece was intended to be an observational drawing of bones. And now when I drew this piece, again I was kind of upset, like on the morning I did my first drawing, and I decided to just kind of encourage myself with this piece. I wrote these, it'll be okay, just breathe, just nice things to say to myself, just to encourage myself, and I use like nice warm colors and just pretty images that I think were really encouraging. And the end result was really interesting to me because it's just extremely paradoxical, because I was literally drawing bones. I mean, in the corner, down in the left-hand corner, there's a skull, like just this reminder of human mortality mixed in with like these sweet nothings to myself. I just think that's really, really fascinating and paradoxical, and I didn't even know that was really happening. I didn't consider my actual subject matter until I was through and I took a step back and looked at it. And overall, I'm really satisfied with the end result, just because I think that's a really interesting idea to be explored, just that meshing between like human mortality and encouragement. This is made with primarily pastels and oil pastels on gray paper. This is my observational figure sketch. Now, for the figure piece itself, I ended up kind of blurring the line between my concentration project and my figure drawing. And so this is kind of just a sketch, kind of the idea I had when I approached my concentration project. So I guess I would consider my figure drawing and my concentration project to be really part of the same idea. So basically, I just have a sketch of this girl kind of subliming away into the universe. You see her dissolving into stardust with clouds around her, and I think it's a solid sketch. I think compositionally it could be a lot stronger, And it's definitely not a finished piece, it's just a brief sketch and kind of an exploration of my ideas. And in that sense, I think it was successful. Well, this is really my first concentration project. This was kind of a blend between the Observing Figures project and my concentration. I just kind of blurred and meshed the two together, and I ended up using this as my concentration project. So for this figure, I just had this this entity, this human, floating in the universe, and she's just kind of either dissolving or being created by stardust. And I just think that's, it kind of portrays the message I was trying to showcase with my concentrations, which is that humans are just made of stardust and water, and that's really all we are. And that's all there is to our lives, and we should remember that. It's made with acrylic on canvas. I used a sponge and a splatter painted for the background. I actually recoated it several times because it added a layer of depth. And I'm overall pretty satisfied with the end result here. This is my second concentration project, and it is meant to depict a dreamscape. I've always found dreams to be a really fascinating facet of human existence, just the fact that we can go to bed and go unconscious, and then essentially create an entire universe in our heads based off of electrochemical pathways in our brain. We can just experience whole storylines, whole adventures, whole lives, and then wake up and completely forget them. Just the idea that we can create a reality in our heads without actually experiencing it is deeply, deeply fascinating to me. So I really just kind of tried to approach that in just a black and white way in this concentration project. This is made with ink wash on watercolor paper. It's just meant to be just strange and different and unnerving almost. And I think it satisfies that, definitely. And I'm pretty overall satisfied with the composition of this piece. However, I think some lines could have definitely been cleaned up a little bit. Now, in this third concentration project, kind of in line with what I was exploring in the previous one, I just kind of approach like perception and how that can distort the reality around us. I kind of focused mainly on light and I don't really have a particular tie-in to that idea with perception. I mean, obviously we perceive the world through light. That's what it is. So in this piece, I used a sponge to create that kind of blue streaked background. I just used blue acrylic on canvas. I'm pretty satisfied with how that came out. And then I painted the cityscape in front, just using a brush and acrylic paint. In terms of process here, I actually started with the idea of having just a solid cityscape, and then halfway through I decided that was extremely boring, and I made the buildings just crumbling away into dust and falling apart, because, I mean, that's dreamlike. I wanted to show that just perception can so easily be distorted, and the world around us is what we make of it, truly. And I also used Sharpie to kind of show like the tiny fragments of buildings and so forth. This was my fourth concentration project. For this one, I was digging through the trash. I mean, I had this idea in my head, and then I dug through the trash in that order, not the other way around. And I found this paper on like capital punishment and how people deserve to die when they do horrible crimes and that kind of thing. And then I decided to do this kind of like nice, pretty foreground and use that paper as the background and then have newspaper put in. So I ended up doing that. I used oil pastels on paper, and then I cut that out using an X-Acto knife and then pasted it on this background on a piece of heavy-duty drawing board. I'm overall satisfied with the result. I think it's kind of weird, especially if you read the paper, which is basically talking about how it's arguing the point that death is like a worthwhile punishment. And just on top of this kind of like classical impressionistic scene, it's just kind of interesting and paradoxical, which is something I enjoy seeing in work. This was the last concentration project I did, and I'm extremely satisfied with it. I kind of really left behind my original idea with my concentration in the past several projects, and I kind of wanted to just revisit my roots in terms of this project. By painting a picture of all the different things I tried to include and keep solid throughout the semester. So I have koi fish, which is a form that I just think is beautiful. I have the lotus flower, and then space with nebulae, and then I have the moon in various stages. Um, Overall, I think this is a very strong piece, one of my strongest this year, and I think I'm just really satisfied with it. Overall, this has been a really amazing semester of art. I think I really kind of broke free of myself. I was just very like in my head in the past in art, and I just had this perception that like I had to do things this way, and trying things in a new way was just not an option for me, and that of course is absolutely ridiculous, and it's a deeply stupid idea. And this semester I really just threw that to the wayside, and I tried lots of different things. I tried just mixed media in most of my pictures. I tried just exploring different ideas in depth using my art, and I'm overall just deeply, deeply satisfied with both the art and the methods and the ideas that I'm walking away from this class with. Um, so it's really been a great semester, and I'm satisfied, and my only regret is that it's not a year-long course.